Hello, everybody. This is DH Thorne coming at you live. I know it's been a little bit since I have done a live stream, and I want to apologize to everybody who counts on me to be around and have a good time and hang out. Um, but a lot has been going on in my personal life. Nothing bad for me directly. It's been involving a lot of people I care about. There's just been a lot of issues. Parental units are aging and they are suffering and they're going through stuff. And it's just been very difficult for me to find the time or energy to do a live stream. Um, Pretty much every day of the week, or at least every other day, we've had to go to hospitals and things like that. And it's not just parents, that's also other people. It's just kind of all happened at once, which it can happen like that, especially when people are, elderly, and there's just things that just have to be taken care of. So there's been a lot on my mind that has been sort of taking the wind out of my sails for doing videos and things like that. So I made a post maybe, I don't know, like 5 days ago, talking about how at some point I feel like I might need to take a break from content creation and all that. But honestly, the type of person I am, that wouldn't really happen that way. It's not like I would just say, oh, I'm not going to do this. It's more like I can't commit to it. Like that's how I see it. Like I need to be able to have some time to just process things that are going on. I am fine. I'm handling it okay. Uh, it will be fine one way or the other. So it's just a matter of having the time and energy. On top of that, I've sort of re-entered a learning phase where I am busy exploring certain things that will eventually be incorporated into everything I do. I am also at some point intending to, as I call it, rebrand, sort of tongue-in-cheek. It's not really a rebrand because I'm not a brand, but I am at the same time. DH Thorne is not really who I am. It's a kind of a character I play to an extent. That's not to say there isn't me in the character. Some of what you see as the character is absolutely from my actual self, but some of it isn't really the whole me, especially lately, especially the last couple of years, things have been changing. But a lot of it is, learning to maybe communicate better than I already do, or maybe don't, depending upon how some of you see me. Throughout my career as a content creator, I get accused of certain attitude problems. Usually it's a misunderstanding, but I do have the self-awareness to know that I can be abrasive to some people who maybe have a fragile ego and don't like it when someone is confident or willing to sort of speak their mind without hesitation. And sometimes when I'm into something, I can act, really fired up. And when I'm not into it, I can drag my feet better than anybody. That's an ADHD trait, by the way. So I've been doing soul searching. I've been doing a lot of self-work, getting really heavy back into meditation, like formal meditation practice, not just, oh, I can meditate just by sitting here and going into my place, but actually doing the more formal stuff. Every once in a while, you got to go back and do the basics. Every once in a while, you got to pick back up the stuff that makes you tick and gives you the fundamentals. Without those things, you're kind of suffering. And over the last couple of months, years, honestly, I have become disillusioned, shall we say, by certain, shall we say, left-hand tropes. Demonolatry is boring to me now. I have no interest in it. Doing enough deep research, you begin to realize that some of these subjects are sort of like the Necronomicon. It's not that they don't have validity or use or power. It is that they are, shall we say, coded, and one of the things that I like about the Necronomicon is it just kind of gives you a pattern of practice that is based on genuine principles. It's really just, doing, it's almost like working through chakras, working through planetary, celestial, spheres, emanations. It's like working through the Kabbalah. It takes you on a journey from, the ego self into the divine. It's great for shadow work. So it's not that it's bad. See what I'm saying? It's not that it's bad. It's just that I have been on a quest to get to the bottom of everything. I've been, when I call myself an occultist, there is this misunderstanding that being an occultist means you read these rather, these books in the public domain about magic and shit. That's not what makes you an occultist. You can call it esotericism, sure. But being an occultist is it's way more than that. It requires going down very deep rabbit holes that are often forbidden to society. It means looking in places where just for looking, people will accuse you of things. Everything from Satanism, anti-Semitism, anti-white. You can be accused of everything, because part of being an occultist is recognizing that the things that are decried as taboo by mainstream society are things that, not as a rule, but in many cases, I don't mean like activities like rape, murder, etc. I mean subjects. When they're verboten to mainstream society, there's usually a nugget of very valuable information buried deep in there. And, when I came back to doing magic in 2018, more formally, and making videos about it, this channel was intended to be sort of a live journal of mine, or a video journal of mine. I don't know if is live journal, that's like a pervert site, right? Okay, whatever. It was meant to be a journal for me to talk about things, to sort of store my knowledge and information, something like that, rather than writing it all down, which I have a bad habit when I write. I sometimes will overdo it, maybe be too pedantic, but when you're speaking, sometimes you can be more fluid and more natural. So I figured I would narrate these things and I'd present them in the form of an educational video. This way I could keep my stuff together. I could keep it in mind. I could, like I said, use it as a journal. And at the time that I got back into this stuff, I was really interested in investigating the forbidden magic, the satanic side of it, not to be a Satanist, but to explore that subject, to see what's in there, because I know from experience in life that there's many layers to what we might call Satanism. And I am here to tell you that being a little bit pedantic and a little bit, maybe not autistic officially, but with some autistic traits, I have a big deal problem with accuracy. That is to say, I don't like being inaccurate. And I do not like when other people are inaccurate. Not to the point where I hate them or anything, but when someone, for example, a Christian, labels everything as satanic that is not hardcore Christian, I immediately jump on that, because to me it's slander, for one thing. But for another, it is distracting, and it tends to label things wrong. Now, I can tell you, having delved very far down so far, speaking of someone who's been diving with me, Be Great Anyway, thank you for that super chat. He says, great to see you. Wishing you and your family peace and strength. Thank you for checking in. You got it, brother. This is a person who I email rather frequently lately with some of my discoveries. He's down many of the same rabbit holes lately. It's fun to have someone sort of to check in with and take notes with. When you go far enough down these rabbit holes, there's no bottom as far as I've found yet. So there's always more to learn. But as you go down these very deep rabbit holes, you begin to understand that the metaphor of Satan, not the good guy Satan, by the way, the demiurge Satan, the bad guy Satan, okay, does exist. I mean, obviously, we live in a manifest reality that is dualistic. The fundamental nature of that reality is non-dual. That is the core truth. But the manifest truth is dual. There is no question that for us, because of ego and because of the way we participate in this dream, there is ego, and that means there is duality. That means there is a light and a dark. That means there is something that, at least from a social perspective, we can say is evil versus good. Now, me being primarily a philosopher, a metaphysician, I think that's the right way to say it, I understand the true definition of good and evil not to be a behavioral issue. What you do is not what's good and evil. That is simply a symptom of good or evil. I prefer like the Platonic understanding of the terms good and evil. So there is no objective good or evil in the sense that this action is always evil. You know, to a fly, a spider is an evil creature. To a spider, a fly is a delicious treat. And if it doesn't get eaten, that is evil. It needs to eat the fly in order for order to exist. I think it's Morticia Adams quoting somebody else, you know, what is chaos to the fly is order to the spider. So clearly, what we're discussing here about good and evil is not a question of alignment in a D&D sense. It's not a question of which sins have you committed. Good and evil is literally nothing more than wisdom versus ignorance. The very wise are good. The good in the Platonic sense is the one, or the monad, or Brahman, or Atman even in the Eastern sense. Evil is ignorance. It's ignorance of the one. It's ignorance of the united, non-dual nature of reality. You take the illusion too seriously. And this is true in a very objective sense, because when you have attained any form of Gnostic realization, that is non-dual bliss, you know, a deep trance where you find the divine within all things, consciousness is a good step, because we tend to overuse the word consciousness in spirituality as if consciousness is the divine, when as consciousness is really just a word. Like, you can't use the word consciousness to define the divine. The word consciousness just points at the most universally recognized aspect, or nature is a better word, of the divine that can be realized. So when I say the divine is consciousness, the average person, the lay person, will they'll go internal immediately, go, wait a minute, you mean my awareness is God? More or less. And that's the springboard. That's not the answer. That is the, did you look this way? Did you look this way? Did you look within? Did you look here? That's where it is. It's not out there. It's in, well, it's out there too, but it's not an external out there, okay? Even out there is in here, if you really understand what's going on. So Plato and these other people would say basically the same thing as the non-dualist or any of those people. Knowledge of the one, knowledge of the good, wisdom, which is what that is, leads to an awakening of the ego, where the ego realizes that, well, it's confronted with itself, that it is just an illusion, that it's a mask, that it's an act. Actually, the best word is an act. It's a choice. It's a choice of manifestation, okay? It's an identification with this, not with the consciousness that is perceiving this, the conscious divine, but this illusion. So long as you are limited in your awareness to, I am just this person, D.H. Thorne, Go-Go, anybody else, you're all, in that sense, ignorant. That ignorance is what generally leads to certain, not behaviors yet, because you have to go through some other steps before that becomes a behavior. But this ignorance means that you're not aware that everything that you, let's keep it in the dualistic sense, that everything that you do is ultimately being done to a reflection of yourself, an externalized reflection of the self. If I get mad at my dog because I had a bad day at work and I kick my dog across the house, break its arm, I would never do that, by the way. But if I did that in a fit of rage, everyone would say, what an evil bastard. Just because of the action, but it wasn't the action itself that was evil. No action is evil. Nothing that you witness is evil. This is actually what, in many ways, this is where it gets deep into the nitty gritty. Okay, the actions themselves are not what is evil. They are a symptom of the evil. If you have the wisdom of the one, of the divine, of Brahman, of monad, of whatever your word for it is, God is fine, Ein Sof is fine. When you have wisdom and knowledge of that entity, that being, that literal, it is existence itself, when you have awareness of that and you know that your true self is that, then you realize that everything is that, because that's the next step. The first step is easy. Most people with zero mystical experience, without any transcendental anything, can come to recognize that consciousness, what they call consciousness, whatever that is their soul, that is their self, that is their true self. Everything else is just something that is that they're like a filter looking through. That's a little bit higher, but that's the fundamental is your consciousness. That's easy. But then to recognize that consciousness is non-dual, and the isolation is illusory. It's like a facet of a gem. It's still the same gem. It's just another perspective of the gem. So when that realization clicks, you realize what evil is. Evil is the ignorance of that union. And so that leads to kicking the dog. Because you wouldn't kick the dog if you knew it was you in another form. Now, there are exceptions. This is why I have the rabid dog rule. True compassion does not suffer a rabid dog to live just because society says it's wrong to do X, Y, or Z. Just because someone says, oh, that's not very nice, it's just a poor dog, it's not its fault. Those people have been brainwashed with a form of morality that is hollow. It's a superficial act of true compassion. It's not the genuine article. And true compassion requires the awareness of source, Brahman, monad, as all. Otherwise, it's always an act, you see? Remember, actions are not good or evil. So if you act compassionate, that's not compassion. The divine is always compassionate. It cannot help but be compassionate because the divine knows that it is all things. It cannot help but to do for itself what is best for itself. It's not even limited to that. It is just simply its nature to do what is its will. So it's not the action. Sometimes the divine, quite literally, as part of that, will experience. I won't even say permit, because that implies a hierarchy of morals here. Like a lot of people on the right-hand path will say, well, God permits evil because. No. God doesn't permit evil because. If there is wisdom, there must be ignorance. You see? And the irony is, you can be wise about ignorance. You can be aware of ignorance. You can transcend wisdom and ignorance, both, and have true gnosis. You can know. Starting to sound like a Gnostic, of course, because Gnosticism is very near and dear to my heart. Not Christian Gnosticism. That's a cool fairy tale, but the fundamental principles of Gnosticism, which come to us from Egypt and Greece, are way more, Hellenistic. Those are fantastic. But the Christian Gnosticism, you have Gnosticism and Christian Gnosticism. And of course, of the Christian cults, Gnosticism in some form is what I would ascribe to if you required or if I had no other choice, like there was no other option that I knew about. You know, let's put it this way. Gnostic Jesus is awesome. There's no question. We'll call him Yeshua to differentiate. Or you might call it Lucifer. The problem is mainstream society hears Lucifer and they think Satan. Okay, a lot of people have not understood my message over the years. They think that when I'm talking about a Satan. And yes, I'll use fallen angel symbolism because it's sort of like, hey, I'm taking something back, if you will. I'm sort of trying to push the message through this idol that is not actually it. And I had to learn that over the past few years. I've had to come to terms with that. And I don't talk about it much because I look around me and I realize there's people who already get it. And those are the people I mostly talk to. Most of you guys already get a lot of it. That doesn't mean you don't get it. That doesn't mean you get everything or you don't have questions. It's just you guys are already kind of with it. And my goal in my awakening is to realize, I should say, I have realized my goal through awakening, and that is to be an awakener, to be a midwife to wisdom, so that people can come to know the source, to know the one as the self. And if that means I have to wear the garb of darkness to do so, why shouldn't I? Darkness is as beautiful as the light. So I happily wear that garb. It doesn't faze me. But going back to my point, we'll call it the cabal, the New World Order, but it's not the New World Order. That's an Alex Jones term. That's a more recent term. The cabal, the actual group that has been walking this world towards genocide of all but 500 million to a billion people, they created, or they have capitalized upon the creation of the various religions. They have corrupted them. They are Saturnian in nature. And when I say they're Saturnian, I mean they are Saturn out of balance. They're materialists. It's not that they don't know about the other stuff. It's not that they don't believe in the divine. It is that they want to control. They are archons. They are demiurge in the metaphorical sense, because I do not believe in Gnosticism as a literal truth, but as a metaphorical truth, as a good map of things. Absolutely. If you understand all of these traditions to be maps, not objective realities, you will unlock secrets of esoteric and occult knowledge that other people can't. This is what has made me popular, because I drilled right down to that non-dual center, and I recognized that all of these traditions at the core are the same. They're all inspired by the same mystical truth, and that truth cannot be described. It can only be known in a Gnostic sense. When I realized that, I was able to start looking at the mythologies and pick them apart and say, this was for this reason, this was for that reason, this is for societal control, this is a mystical truth, this is cargo cult stuff. And that I'll get to that in a minute. This is lies, corruption, and deception. So the cabal, before you even get into ancient aliens and all of that stuff, at least one of the major heads of the Hydra, that is the cabal, they are Saturnian cultists, and they're not in balance. You know, Saturn in balance is all about the beautiful cycles of nature. When the divine, you have to understand, in the ancient world, you had the sun and the black sun. Saturn's the black sun. It's the cube. It's the hex. Okay. Why do you think we say we hex somebody? Right? What's a hex except a four-dimensional cube in 2D? Okay. So, and the cube, the black cube, is Saturn. Now, Saturn and the sun in balance, in harmony, lead to a beautiful dualistic universe. You're invoking Zoroastrian here a little bit. You have, I always forget, Ahriman and Angramang, whatever. I don't give a shit, okay? It's just myths. It's just metaphor. It's language. It's a form, it's a diagram on multiple dimensions. And this is where people get hung up, is because They take literally what is meant to be symbolic and teach you through layers of symbolism. Take the Bible. I've been tempted to go through it. It's just a daunting task. I've been tempted to go through it and see if I can, maybe not authoritatively or definitively, but start to pull out. But then I realized you don't have to. You've got the Kabbalah, you've got the Torah, you got these. But the point is, you can pull that book apart, especially if you use translations by like Paul Wallace from The Fifth Kind, who explains to you what certain words have been warped to mean. That they're not meant, Yahweh is not meant to be God. Yahweh is the powerful ones, okay? Yahweh Elohim, the powerful ones, the sky daddies, the Anunnaki. It's a plural word. And because that was a problem, Orthodox Christianity said, no, it represents the Trinity that we made up. It doesn't represent a Trinity of anything in the objective sense. If it did, then that Trinity is an evil fucker who's exactly like the demiurge. He's a murderer, condones rape, all of that stuff, all the things you're not supposed to do. Oh, but God is above sin. True. The divine is above sin. Consciousness is above sin. It witnesses it. It doesn't cause it. It dreams it. Let's go back to a few steps to morality and things. If you had a dream tonight about murdering your best friend, did you sin? Would anyone blame you? Would anyone say, oh, you need to go to jail? They might say, what's wrong with you? Because some people are uncomfortable by that. But no one would say he needs to go to jail. No one would say, oh, you are a sinner. Maybe like a really, maybe I should take that back. But most people, except for maybe the most fundamentalist Puritan, would not say that you did anything really wrong. They might say repent or something, but they wouldn't say that you did something wrong. In the same way, if you're the dreamer of a dream and you didn't hurt anybody, you see, then the thing is, the ego is not the dreamer. It's a figment of the dream. So what the ego does, guess what? It is actually susceptible to punishment. It does deserve punishment because the ego, when ignorant of its divinity, that is to say, its role in divinity, as a mask for divinity, when the ego doesn't understand this, it tends to act in ways that are destructive to the dream. I don't mean, let me be clear here. The dream in its proper state is harmonious. There are heroes, there's villains, there are predator, there's prey, right? But when the ego is out of balance, when it thinks that it is real and the divine is not, or that it is the somehow more important than other egos or something, that is what causes all of these calamities. Let me be honest with you. There's enough of that. One of the things people don't understand is they live in a world and they have become so conditioned to the corrupted nature of this planet and its society. They do not recognize Saturn out of balance. We disregard the sun and focus on Saturn. This is what I have come to learn through the left-hand path. I am not a right-hand path guy. I'm becoming no-hand path, if you will. I've always said that that's like the final ending. The left and the right both eventually lead to the top of the mountain. If you follow them evenly, if you are able to focus on one for a while, focus on the other, flip-flop, don't be attached to any one, but use them both, that's fine. I always hate when people say, oh, I am neither. Okay, fair, but just by saying that, you're telling me that you are against convention. Okay, that tendency against convention is a left-hand attitude. You just don't realize that because you've sort of been taught that left hand means evil and right hand means good. So you're thinking, well, I'm both. I can do either. That's not what I'm saying. The world that we exist in has been corrupted by Saturn out of balance. By that I mean the Saturnian influence has been amplified by a nefarious group of people who understand the power that can be gained in that imbalance for their egos. You see, they are aware of the divine, but instead of instead of being in harmony and identifying as that divine in the ultimate sense, they are enjoying the show and they know it's a dream. See, this is the part that's hard to communicate to people, because most of you guys, most of my audience, even you guys, even the ones who are not truly dualistic, you still have dualistic tendencies. We all do. One of those tendencies is to divide this into a good and evil. I wouldn't do that. I would do that. You don't realize that someone who attains a truly deep and profound degree of non-dual awareness no longer is defined or attached to morality at all. They don't need it. They know what I am doing is part of someone else's suffering or not. Now, one of the issues is you can become attached to the idea of never causing suffering. That in itself causes suffering, if not to the self, then to the world, because you want to save the world. What you don't realize is that's a Saturnian influence. This is hard for people because you've been programmed that it means good and evil in the act sense. So you've been programmed that the greater good sometimes requires the sacrifice of freedom and innocence. No. What you don't understand is that when the divine is truly known, then the sun and the black sun are one, the yin yang. And then you realize that freedom is the highest good, because those who are truly transcendent are in fact free. They are ultimately free. That's why we call it liberation, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, and everything in between. Liberation is the goodest of the good. But those who are not wise, those who are asleep, well, they're a rabid dog. And rabid dogs should not be suffered to live. Now, that doesn't mean you have to put them down. If there's a cure for them, you cure them. How do you cure them? You wake them up. You wake up the sleeping dog and you say, hey, did you know? And that's how things progress. But this other group of people have spent at least the last several hundred years, if not the last several thousand, confusing humanity and dragging us further towards the black sun, towards the Saturnian delusion, the materialist delusion, the soulless, the synthetic, the lie. And in doing that, they have created this imbalance in the Force. Let's use a Jedi reference, okay? They have created an imbalance in the Force. In so doing, you have people who have no knowledge of the good, no knowledge of divinity within all things, or is all things, however you want to say it, because language is tricky with this, because you can get confused even when you say it right. This is why I try to be as careful as I can, because some people will hear, oh, all is one, and that flicks a morality button in their head, but they don't get it yet. So I try to really get the language to point really accurately at what I'm saying. It's hard as hell. It kind of can drive you crazy. So someone will hear we are all one, and they'll say, well, that means I have to treat everybody good. I have to go out of my way. Now you can. That's a fair attitude. But only if it comes from a place of true wisdom, not acts, not actions. You have to know when to act and when not, when to strike and when to stay your hand. And you can't know that in the objective binary duality sense, but you can know in the wisdom sense. And the wise person usually does not interfere with the harmony of nature. And even, by the way, this out of balance state is also part of the balance of nature in the swinging pendulum sense. This is why the divine doesn't really interfere with anything, because it's still perfectly according to the divine's will. I don't mean an external divine, I mean you, dummy. Not ego you, the you that's watching the ego, thinking that that's who it is. That being that you truly are, your soul, that facet of the oversoul, the whole soul. Let me use all the different terms so we can understand each other. That facet of Brahman that you think you are that isn't the whole. Let me slow down. When you finally find that, you realize that even this madness that we're watching unfold in the world, the woke versus the conservative, the this and that, the fundies and the idiots on the left and the right, and then the moderates in the middle, but all of them are ignorant fools. None of them know. None of them know what I'm telling you. It's true as hell. There's evidence everywhere. It's filled in all the occult lore if you know how to pick it apart and read the symbolism. Tucker Carlson recently interviewed the QAnon shaman guy and admitted, whether you trust him or not, that's up to you, admitted things like aliens, interdimensional beings, occult orders that eat children, the cabal is all real. Was that just a soundbite? If you know what's going on, you know it's not. You know that this is the beginning of revelation in the Bible, in the biblical sense. But it's not going to turn out how the fundies think. And it's not going to turn out how the Satanists think. It's not going to turn out how any of you think. Well, maybe some of you guys. But it's not going to turn out how these tribes think, because they have not attained wisdom yet. They still think in dualistic, egoistic terms. So there is a collective of people, beings, entities, both human and not, in and on this world. And I do mean in as well. And they are also non-physical and physical. They're all different dimensions of realness, okay? That favor the imbalance of nature, because that means they are controlling it in their mind. How do you control anything? I've said this many times in my live streams, and many people don't realize this. People think control is power. They think that if you can control something, you must be powerful. Powerful people control. That is absolutely wrong. Control is limitation. It is not power. Control is stop. That's control. Control is not let's go, full blast. That's letting things go is power. Liberation is power. You want power, you want freedom, not control. People say, well, isn't that the same? No. If you're controlling something, you've got to give up something to control it. I can't push you unless I expend some of my freedom. I have to stop whatever course I am on to push you, even if you're in my way. Limitation, even when used externally on something else, isn't power. Real power is to be part of the ultimate flow. What do you think Become the Maelstrom was trying to tell you just in the title? Instead of trying to control the maelstrom, become it. And people say, well, Thorne, that's not left-hand path. Left-hand path is cosmic, anti-cosmic individualism. What is the most anti-cosmic individual thing you can do in a cosmos like this? Doesn't it occur to you that the most individualistic cosmic thing you can do, anti-cosmic thing you can do, is to reject the illusory cosmos, recognize that you are the ultimate one, the ultimate Brahman, Atman, you are the Atman. You are it. You're not merging with it. You are it. Sure, that sounds like solipsism, only because you're still thinking in terms of number. Non-duality is not solipsism because non-duality is numberless. Brahman is numberless. It is not one. It is transcendent beyond all number. It's not even infinity. Infinity is not, it's not too big or too small. The absolute is existence itself, and consciousness is in, it is, consciousness and existence are synonymous. That's what the divine is. And it is that existence which gives all form its existence. This person exists because the divine is existence and fills this being. What do you think the scriptures and Christianity and all these things are telling you? It's just coded, and these people have twisted the code. They've warped the words. This is what they always do. I'm getting worked up. I promised myself I'd stay a little bit more mellow. What do you think the Marxists always do? Do you think Marxism is new? The tactics of Marxism, where they distort words and they create divisive groups to battle against each other, do you think that's new? No, there's nothing new about it. Go back as far as you want in history, you will find the exact same tactics that the Marxists use today being used in ancient cultures. They just change the arguments a little bit. They change the language a little bit. It's the same thing over and over again. Corruption of, why do you think the Hermetic tradition, why do you think all these traditions tell you change not one syllable of this holy message? Because that corruption is how you lose wisdom, because it's ignorance. They corrupt the meaning of words. They corrupt what things intendedly, what every symbol meant. And they turn it into something that makes people stupid, divided, weak, woke, fundamentalist. Can't not include them because they're in the same energy bracket. They are all corruptions of the truth. They're lost. That's Saturnian. Thorne, why do you say that? If I have to explain that to you, that's fine. Don't call yourself knowledgeable on these subjects if I have to explain to you why. I don't mind explaining it to you. Just understand. I've had people come to me and say, Thorne, don't say that. Saturn's not bad. I didn't say Saturn was bad. See, this is what people, you're dumb. I'm doing it again. Mellow out, Thorne. But you're dumb if you think that I'm saying Saturn is bad. Saturn is a necessary component. Saturn is yin to the yang of the sun. It's not a perfect metaphor because yin yang means something else, but they're very closely related. Saturn is a corrupting entity, a corrupting pattern. It is entropy. It is time. Not time in the flowing of time sense, time in the degradation sense, time in the fractal spiral sense, where things repeat over and over, but they're always a little different and they're a little bit run down every cycle. Saturn is a corrupting element in nature. And that corruption is necessary for the harmony. If there was no corruption, there could not be redemption. If there was no death and harvest, which is also a Saturnian concept, there could not be life and rebirth. The sun, the giver of life and rebirth, right? This isn't hard at all. This is fundamental. Most of you guys go, oh yeah, obviously. That's so obvious. But you see, it's been hidden from you. It's been hidden layer upon layer of occulted bullshit. And you have YouTubers out there going, you know, call upon the power of Saturn to, or whatever, right? Mars, blah, blah. They think it's a bunch of levers on a machine. If you say the right prayer, this is cargo cult mentality. They don't understand the deeper knowledge at play. You have to transcend these superficial layers. They're fine for telling stories. They're fine for utilizing in ritual symbolism, but they break down if you take the symbols literally. This has always been the problem. Look at your fundamentalist Christian friends. They read the Bible and they take it literally. And what happens? They're crazy. They think the earth is flat. They think that space is water. Right? They're willing to kill you. Maybe not openly, but in their hearts, they go, ooh, you're a demon worshiper. I have to get you. They're just tribalistically corrupted. And they think that they're the good guys. That is a Saturnian corruption. They don't know that they literally worship Saturn, because Yeshua in the New Testament is the sun. It's a solar entity. It's a solar concept. It's a redeemer. Literally, the Christmas, the 3 days, the winter solstice, all of these things, they revolve around the sun. Jesus is a solar deity at odds with Yahweh, because he came and literally said, Yahweh was wrong. You don't have to do. And of course, he would say it in a way that doesn't sound that way, because you can't do that, right? At the time. At least according to the Christians who wrote the Bible. Jesus didn't write it. The apostles didn't write the Bible. People who a generation later, from stories and retellings and other things, they gleaned it and they just put it together. This is the word of God, because we said so. It's such a bullshit story. Not that the essence is untrue. I think that there is some truth to the essence of it. I think that there probably was a man or a group of people that became the story of this person. Their story is probably very different. If it was just one person, probably very different than what we've been told. A lot of people say, like, Jesus had to have gone to Asia, had to have gone to India and became a Buddhist, because a lot of his teachings, especially in the Apocrypha, are Buddhist. Actually, what's interesting is that reading the Kabbalah and being a Kabbalist, being a true rabbi, leads you to a very similar set of understandings as a Buddhist or a Hindu would realize. This is why Kabbalah is a Western form of non-dual monist realization. It's just a different model of the same thing. A genuine Kabbalist realizes Ein Sof ultimately is all there is, and the ego self is a puppet of it, and that you are not that puppet. You are that which is watching the puppet, and that which is watching that puppet is a ray of light from Ein Sof. It is consciousness. It is the divine. The divine is watching this. That's what, when you pray, what do you think you're praying to? See, this is how they've corrupted everything. They corrupted the Christian religion and even the Jewish tradition by making God an external being that you must pray to out there, as if it's listening to you in the ceiling or in the floor. The fools don't even realize that the almighty witness, the omnific witness of all things, is consciousness itself. It is so brazenly obvious. And that is how you know that the teachings are corrupted intentionally. Why would you do that? Now we're getting to something interesting. You would corrupt those teachings because only a corrupted being can be ruled. A being that genuinely knows its divinity is much more difficult, if not impossible, to rule over. You can put a gun to their head and they'll still say no, if it is not their will to do. Why? Because they know that this is a dream, and while it will be unfortunate to die in this dream, it is not your end. It will shift to a new kind of dream. It might be an afterlife dream. It might be a reincarnation dream. But whatever it is, you're just shifting from one dream to another. And sometimes between dreams, you must forget. Just like when you wake up in the morning, you might forget 90% of your dream from the night before, or even all of it. And just like tonight when you dream, you're probably going to forget your day. Yet your day life shapes your dream life, and your dream life shapes your day life that carries you through. Imagine waking up every day knowing everything you dreamt last night, and then somehow trying to live your day with that knowledge. It's going to shape your day, no? Of course it will. Well, guess what? Even if you don't actively remember it, the subconscious does. And that's going to shape your day just the same. That's karma. It's like memory, but it's momentum. It's a momentum of attachment and memory. It's the ego at work. It's like the ego's job is to smooth that out. And so whatever happens in one moment must be dealt with the next. It's not a good analogy or a perfect analogy, but this is a karmaless object. It's just sitting there. That was karma. It fell. It's causal. Karma is a causal kind of thing. It's not true causality, because true causality can't be interrupted. But that's the point. That is the real secret of karma, is realizing that karma can be interrupted. You can change your karma. You can drop it instantly. You don't have to rectify everything you've ever done. This was Yeshua's message. Forgive yourself. What do you think that is? Yeshua's message of, God, forgive me. Who are you asking? If you're asking an external, separate God, well, you've just given into corruption. If you are talking to consciousness, if you talk to your own consciousness, did you realize that every thought is a prayer to consciousness? Has that ever occurred to you? Thorne's becoming Christian. No, I'm just finally getting around to untangling it for you a little bit better. To give you a way, some of you guys, deep down in your heart, because you were raised in a Western sphere, that Christian culture is codified in your heart. If I could untangle it for you and give you a way to have access to that again, comfortably, that isn't this right-hand, obey the church, Christ Jesus bullshit. Jesus, Jesus, save me, King of Kings. If I could help you untangle that, some of you would readily accept it again. I know you would. Because you'd realize the wisdom in it. You'd think of Jesus like a Western Buddha. Wouldn't be such a big deal. Because I would untangle the corruption, the Saturnian corruption of the cabal, the Hydra. This thing which I can't be too specific in naming without getting content strikes and crap. That's another reason I haven't done as much videos lately, is because going off into the weeds about certain groups from antiquity, I have to be careful with what I say. Because they are protected still. They're a protected class. And it's not just them, by the way. They're just one of the heads of this Hydra. This Hydra is it's everywhere in this world. Every culture has a version of it. It's in the East, it's in the West, it's in the above and the below. It's everywhere. It may be throughout the cosmos. It may be organized or it may not be. In fact, it works better when it's decentralized. That's why it's a Hydra. It's spread out. There is no one head. You have to get them all or try to strike at the body, but even the body, it's like a writhing mass of serpents. A real Hydra is not like a dragon with multiple heads. It's a writhing mass of serpentine heads all thriving together as one entity of multiple infinite parts. That's a true Hydra. That's a motherfucker right there. Good luck. You can kill one, there's a million more. You have to take out the whole thing. In essence, you never can. You see? Because it's the counterpart. You can't destroy the black sun any more than you can destroy the regular sun in the spiritual metaphor. If you were to blot out the black sun, how would you even know? It's the black sun. It's the dark. What would you do? Make another light there? You'd have to make everything light. And by the way, if you do that, there's no difference between light and dark, and that means it goes away. It all goes away. The whole show ends. You see? The divine doesn't want that. The divine wants this show to continue because this is fun. And I don't mean fun in like the objective sense. I mean fun in the non-dual spiritual sense. It's lila. It's not going to stop until it is bored. And when it's bored of it, it'll go to sleep for a while and then it'll do it again. It will stop manifesting and then it will start manifesting again. And it never ends because time is an illusion. There's no beginning or end. You see? If you keep thinking dualistically, you'll never get it. You have to transcend these dualisms to understand it. Did you notice what I did? Whoop, right? Yin yang again. So all of these religions, on some level, have an element of corruption. That's unavoidable because over time things become corrupted, and that is a natural order of things. Why do you think there is a cyclic nature to time? It is a swinging pendulum it's actually more like a sine wave in 3D. It's a spiraling fractal. And it keeps running through the same plot line over and over again, just different characters, different ways of telling the story. Look at Avatar. Look at Pocahontas. Look at Dancing with Wolves. It's the same story. In some ways, it's almost beat for beat the same story. Especially Dancing with Wolves and Avatar are the same story. That was one of the big criticisms of it. People were like, oh, James Cameron just bit off Dances with Wolves. Dude, Star Wars bit off the hero's journey. That's in every myth ever. Nobody got mad at Lucas for that. They got mad at James Cameron for that because it was more on the nose maybe than Lucas managed to make it look a little bit more spruced up and weird because it had spaceships. I mean, it's the Hidden Fortress, guys. Go watch the Hidden Fortress. It's almost the same story, especially as the first Star Wars. So that is a good example of the fractal nature of time. Nothing new ever happens. It's just different actors and images playing out. This is why Jung only identified certain archetypes. That doesn't mean there can't be more or less. It just means that to humans, from our perspective as a collective, there are certain archetypes that are common, and they represent stages. Just like the zodiac. So you see the cyclic nature of things. And when you see this cyclic nature of things, you realize, hey, maybe somebody engineered the solar system to keep time of this cycle. Has that ever occurred? Why do you think I made that video? I'm getting a little cocky here. Why do you think they made that video? Why do we think I made that video a little while ago with my prophecies? That someday we will discover that the solar system is a machine of some kind. And I still maintain that. I believe that this solar system was modified or maybe even created by ancient beings. I don't know, but it's obviously not a fluke. And if it is, no wonder the universe wants this solar system so badly. That there are forces at war over who controls it. That's not quite what I think. I just think that's what people claim. You hear this if you explore the star seed stuff. Earth is a very important planet. This solar system is very important to a lot of different things. Is it because this solar system just happened to be this way? Maybe. But you can completely ignore that and also recognize that once long ago, look, we've only been keeping records for a few hundred years, really. Before that, it's a collation of other people's records. We as a culture, see, we like to think that we're the same culture as the Egyptians or the Hellenistic Greeks or whatever. No, they were their own cultures and societies. Our society is a global one. And we like to think that their society is ours. It's not. There's very little about our society that resonates with them at all. They would laugh at us. They would mock us. They would shun us. Even the worst of them would shun us as fools. They would say, you have planes, but you look at what you do to each other the way you do it. Look at your foolish belief in the world the way you believe it. You think the world is material? Rocks and dirt? You think that's the fundamental? Huh. Savage. Fool. Maniac. I'm talking about the civilized, the intelligent ones, not the farmer probably wouldn't care either way. The farmer just knows to do farming. So we live in a society that thinks that we are a continuity of those things. We are not. We've only been keeping our own history for a few hundred years as a civilization, as a modernized civilization, as a unified, though diversified culture. But in all of human history, we've only been keeping, as far as we have access to anyway, you and I, something on the order of 9,000 or so years of history, and only little tiny drops in the giant ocean. Think of all of the data right now that YouTube stores just to have all these videos. It's incalculable by me. I'm sure there's a statistic somewhere on Google if you look it up. It's some incalculable number that you would not want to have to worry about. Why do you think it's such a big company? Half the reason is just storage. And that's only for the last 10 years. Could you imagine trying to store everything that's ever happened in the last 10 years just on this planet? That would be even bigger. Imagine doing that going back to antiquity. That's even more ridiculous. No, what you have access to is what survived. You don't know the history of the world. You know what survived that we have record of. That's not the history of the world. Now that gives us a window into the history of the world. When you read about the story that they used to make the movie 300, when you read about how the Egyptians lived and all of this, well, you have to understand a lot of that is from what survived from their culture that wasn't destroyed by Saturnian, Chronos, time, entropy, corruption. What wasn't destroyed by corruption, that's what you have. That means that things that somehow survive are what shape our history, not history. History doesn't shape our history in the same way that we think it does. We like to think that we know what happened 1,000 years ago because someone wrote it down, we found it, and that's that. How do you know that there isn't another version of that story that's different? You don't know. This is why historians have this wonderful job. And a good historian, a good anthropologist, will not just follow the mainline sources. They will explore all of it. The esoteric sources, the occult sources as well. The alternative perspectives of history. To hell with your morality, they're wise enough to realize that the victor always writes the history books. And the victor doesn't just mean politically or in war. It also means the surviving record, because that is a victor over time. So this is why the Sumerians wrote everything on tablets. This is why the Egyptians wrote everything in stone, because they knew from their ancestors, who themselves knew about the ancient Anunnaki or whoever the hell, the Atlanteans, the Lemurians, whatever your theory du jour is, they knew that those people understood what time would do and how important it was to save things in perpetuity through something that would not break down. What is the most stable way to store information in a macro scale environment? Stone is good, but the heavens are better. What if you could shape a solar system, leaving codexes and ciphers all around the world in the form of structures that may have had multiple purposes? The pyramids may, yes, have been just a power generator. Or maybe they were a stargate. Or maybe they were again, whatever your theory du jour is, I don't care. But encoded within that object is the symbolism for many other truths. What if astrology is just a way to codify the Saturnian shift of time, the wheel of time? And every season will be different, but the same. Think of 1 year. Is not every year the same, but completely different? Does it not begin in winter, become spring, summer, fall, etc.? Even in the equator and the poles, there is a shift of season. It may not be as obvious. It may be subtle. Maybe you just get a rainy season or something, but that's still a cyclic pattern. This is what I mean. There is a cyclic influence to time. People hear time is a circle and they think everything's going to happen over again. And while there may be something in that, because there may be a limited number of iterations of the cycles, there may be a grand cycle, a cosmic cycle, sure. A non-dual cycle, sure. Possibly. Maybe that is what happens. But you have to remember, time is an illusion anyway. It is a measure of change. It is not an absolute thing. So I'm untangling a lot of things here. There's no purpose. There's just a bunch of, I'm just untangling a lot of shit like I do when I contemplate privately. This is, you're kind of listening to my mind right now, what I think about, when I'm bored. Literally every moment of my life is like this, that I'm not busy doing something else. This is why I can't help it. It just pours out of me. It's beyond a passion. It's my nature. So not every thought is good, but at least I'm thinking. But it is that cyclic nature that creates in conflict with the eternal, an apparent conflict that creates this illusion of materiality, of duality, the sun versus the black sun or whatever. So what if beings far more advanced than we could ever comprehend, we're talking like Arthur C. Clarke, or we're talking like 20,001, 20,010, 2060 level entities that drop obelisks on developing species and seeds them there, and and spurs along their evolutionary process and changes them. Entities beyond aliens, literal cosmic mind god things. Q entities like from Star Trek, whatever your version of them. No doubt, even in a materialistic sense, there's a good chance something like that could exist. Nothing says they couldn't. And if you dispense with materialism and you realize materialism is just another corruption, it's a corruption of the illusion of Maya. It is saying that the illusion is real. It's firmly planting your feet in the illusion, saying that's what's real. That's a lie. That's a corruption of the truth. The absolute truth transcends ideal or material. It's non-dual, but it does express through idealism. And materialism is just the way idealism looks. That's why you have that hierarchy in every classical esoteric system, where you have a source, an astral, and then a material, and then an oblivion below. That's why. It's not because that structure is the structure of Maya. Maya can have structure. But the source, Brahman, cannot, or I should say does not, or needs not structure. We can't limit Brahman to anything. We can't say it doesn't have it either. You can't say it has it or doesn't have it. That would be limiting it to something. Brahman is limitlessness. It is limitlessness beyond even the concept of limitlessness. It's transcendent. It is the absolute transcendent reality. It transcends all of these ideas. All of these ideas are within it as illusion, or we see it as illusion. How do you think aliens travel? Do you think that they just have big engines on a ship and they shoot themselves somewhere? To us, it is magic, because we have been taught that consciousness is a magical idea. Let's not get into that, because that's another topic for another time. But they don't travel by warping space-time. Not as such. They recognize that they're not a thing, that they are a localization of consciousness, localization of Brahman, localization of the aether. This body is just something like a wave sticking up out of the aether, but they are not the wave. You can take that wave, flatten it out, and then make it appear somewhere else. You can return to source, turn in a direction, and appear there. Now, I don't know how to do it. Not yet. D.H. Thorne will probably never know because he is the wave. You understand? You want to teleport to another part of reality, you've got to let go of the wave. Or at least you've got to let go of your attachment to this specific localization of the wave. So they've routinized this through technology, and eventually some of them don't even need the technology. There are entities in this cosmos that are non-local too. They have returned. They are no longer, they are transcendent of the dream. Their egos have transcended the dream to the point where they are non-local. They are archetypal, means they're not personal, but they are the source of all personal form. Archetypes are what the gods in mythology. See, this is where things get tangled again, because the corruptors don't want you to know this. They want you to think of the gods as objective entities, because the gods are patterned off of archetypes, but they ultimately are a cargo cult of advanced beings that have come here and interacted with us. And then they mythologize them. They create stories about them. We don't know what the Anunnaki were really like. We just know what their stories are. You hear about the Anunnaki in myth. And those myths represent archetypes. But those archetypes are universal, at least in this universe, especially in humanoid beings. It seems to be universal to all human. It's like a paradigm. It's like a wavelength. So if you're all in a similar wavelength of consciousness, there will be a fairly universal perspective of archetypes. This is why if you look around you, you will see different people resonate more with one or another. This is young guys, with one or another archetype. What do you think astrology's for? In the way we use it as psychological astrology. Original astrology was a predictive tool, and it still can be if you understand what I was talking about with the cycles before. They're a way to sort of put your finger in the air and tell which way the wind is blowing. Doesn't mean it's gonna do it. Doesn't mean the exact events are gonna happen. It just means that that pattern, it will be observed. It will resonate. That plot line is in effect for this period. Dances with Wolves can take the form of Avatar or Pocahontas or vice versa, and all the above. You know, that's why astrology breaks down when you put it to an objective test, because people will say, well, astrology, it determines things. Like, this is the corrupted understanding of astrology. The correct understanding of astrology is that it helps you understand the patterns of the cycle so that you can sort of prepare. Or you can use that like a weather pattern to sort of get a boost or recognize what hardships are coming. It doesn't decide what happens. It just decides the flow of what's happening. So of course it breaks down when tested objectively. Someone will make an objective prediction. They will say, oh, because your planet is in this house, therefore this will happen. This specific thing is going to happen to you. You're going to meet a mysterious stranger today. Is going to. That's why it's so generalized. Because it's meant to be general. It's not general because that's what makes it fit. It's general because it's just telling you the pattern of flow. It's a powerful ass tool, but it's also been corrupted. It's one of the reasons I don't use it very much, because I know that what I read on the internet is a modern corruption of it. I'm not exactly sure what it's supposed to be. There used to be 13 zodiacal signs. There used to be guys, we use more planets than the ancients did. At least in more recent antiquity, the last 6,000 years or so. So we're not talking about celestial energy beams that are pushing the universe around that apply to this solar system. These might be somewhat universal somehow. It's like this solar system is a clock that has been shaped, has been designed. The planets have been positioned to keep track of those things. And when they make an adjustment to the clock, there's usually some cataclysmic things that happen. Our history is full of that example when we have these huge traumatic events that wipe out life and so on. Maybe that's what's happening. Maybe. I'm not saying that is what happened. What if a higher power shaped this solar system to be a timepiece that helps them remember the cycles and the patterns? And it doesn't even have to be perfect. It just has to get you on paper. You can adjust it with your own metrics. What if we travel the universe and we find another solar system with the exact same arrangement? Wouldn't that be interesting? Maybe not the same planets, like Earth might be, but the same orbital periods, the same, that stuff. Wouldn't that be something? If that ever happens, consider my theory completely proven, by the way. Even if you don't find a civilization that built it, consider that proof alone. Because the odds of that happening in one galaxy are beyond astronomical. You'd have to go beyond probably the observable universe to find an exact ordering, patterning. But what if somebody created that to clue us in? Just like the pyramids clue us in about mathematical things, geometric things. What if the ordering of the planets and their rotational periods and so on are all part of a great big giant artifact meant for future civilizations to mature? What if this planet is a nursery? What if it is a combination of prison, nursery, and madhouse for souls that don't know that they're divine? What if beings come to this planet to remember the hard way? This would make sense because if you look at people's past life memories, they're usually... Look, people don't remember being Jesus. They don't remember... What they remember is hardship. And they remember things that bruise their egos, whether they realize it or not. I was killed this way. I was a poor person. I was a rich person. But these are things that left a mark on their ego, their karma. No one remembers being the Dalai Lama. Although that's the myth, right? The Dalai Lama is a reincarnation of the one before it, I guess. But I don't like that, the way that's portrayed. I think that's corruption, the way they've done it. I'm not saying it's totally untrue. I'm just saying I think it's a corruption. I'd have to sit with these people and really watch them for a while to read it. Don't mean to insult anybody who likes that. It's just I'm used to seeing corruption in everything. And once you learn to see, what do you think the left-hand path helps teach you? It teaches you about corruption. The left-hand path can be a trap just like the right hand. If you go so far into the left hand that you can't ever do the right hand thing again, or you're afraid to look, you make the right your enemy, that's not the right way. The point of the left-hand path is to integrate your taboos and the things you're not supposed to look at. It's to teach you about the balance of the black sun and the light. Saturn is your friend. Kronos is your friend. Yin is your friend, but it must be in balance. It must be harmonized. You cannot favor Satan over God, or, Ahura Mazda or whatever. You can't favor one over another. Am I getting the wrong names? I don't even know anymore. Don't care. Oh, 1 second. This is important. This is part of... I'll have to go in a moment. That's why I kind of did this a little early tonight. Patchy, my problem with that is if you intentionally stick to the middle path, you're also denying the whole. Reality is not found in stagnation. This is why I always have a negative response when people say, I am both, I am neither, I am this, I'm that, middle path, I'm no hand, I'm middle hand, I am no hand. Now you're denying the extremes. That's a static system. Balance is found in a swinging pendulum, not in two sides of a pendulum statically and one in the middle. That's the ego trying to say, look at me. Look at me. I'm better than everybody because I'm not an extreme. I'm in the middle. As if the middle isn't an extreme as well. I challenge any one of you to argue with what I just said. In a nice way. With yourself. Oh, let me check this. I might have to go. So I'm going to go to your chat in a second because I'm only going to be here for a little bit. Oh, let me read it more than Patchy. I might have... Sorry, Patchy. I'm not scolding you if it sounds like I am. Yeah, maintaining a balance is better, Patchy. Yeah, it is. All right, let me go to your chats because I'm going to be cutting out a little bit. I wanted to only do a short one tonight, but I hope I packed enough juice in this one that you guys will enjoy it. Let's just go there. Jason said, hello, happy to see you here, or happy to be here with you. You're welcome, Jason. It's good to see you too. We have to get one of our meetings together. Area Trance says, hi, what's up, Area Trance? Gogo says, hi, dear legend. I hope in the future everything will be okay. Greetings from Croatia. Yes, Gogo, it will. It's just I'm in a very chaotic time right now, and I got to tell you guys, this year is going to be like this for everybody. Like my wife said, what we're going through may be extreme. My wife and I, we're going through some very extreme chaos right now, but everybody's going through something right now. Every member of our family, everybody that we know, every friend in the last 6 months, and will continue, they're getting this issue or that, and not just the usual issues. It's getting worse. It's extreme. It's becoming extreme, and we're not even into the socio-political, geological revelations shit yet. You think we are. You think we're in chaos now. You haven't even seen anything. What you're seeing happening around the world with the upheavals, this is nothing. You haven't seen anything yet. This is the time of tribulation we're in. It's just not going to happen like the fundies think. And it's not going to happen like any group thinks. Because it's not about specifics. It's about... So that's the problem with the fundamentalist Christians' prophecy, is they are waiting for very specific things of a very specific... It has to be this guy, this place, this time, blah, blah. They're nuts. They're materialists. They're corrupted. Buckle up. It's going to get bumpy. But... Yes, as my wife said, buckle up, buckaroos, because this is going to get bumpy. You think it's bumpy yet? Guys, we're not even on the gravel road yet. Like, we're not even hitting the potholes yet. We haven't gone into the ditch yet. We're going to go into the ditch. I don't mean Mad Max, but it's going to look like Mad Max is the next step. You think I'm kidding? It depends on where you are in the world, of course. But if you're in the wrong place, it's going to look that way. I got to check this again. So this next year, I predict, because I'm not good with specifics, because I realize that at the very least, there is no human on this earth that can predict specifically on command. It does happen. It absolutely happens. I've done it. My wife's seen me do it. Sometimes I do it 5 minutes in advance, sometimes a month in advance. But I can do it. It's just not like a routinized thing. I can't just cause it. It's sort of like sneezing. You sneeze when you look at the sun, but you can't make yourself sneeze, right? That helps you sneeze, but doesn't cause it. So I can look to the future, but not always get it. But what I can do is I'm pretty good with trajectory, momentum. the astrological prediction of storms are coming, peace is coming. I'm good at that. And the thing is, a lot of people are good at that, but only when they get close to it. I can do it years in advance to a degree. I've been telling you guys this time was coming for a while. I just couldn't figure out when or exactly what form it would take, but I saw it coming years ago. I've been telling people since 2012, 2010, that something bordering on a civil war was coming to America at some point in our lifetime soon, next 10, 20, 30 years. That's before I even got on the whole Alex Jones end of the world crap. I could see it brewing. I could see it in the way people were talking to each other. I could feel it. And as I'm getting closer, my model gets better and more clear. And I don't know exactly what's going to happen, though I have a pretty good idea based on research. And I can tell you that we're not going to be in Kansas much longer. But it's going to, like, I'm not saying that aliens will or will not show up next year, the year after, or any of that. But I will tell you that conspiracy theorists are going to continue to be proven right. Not the flat earthers. They're part of another psyop. The ones that know the deep true. The ones who know what I'm telling you, they'll be right. And some of them will be way more right than I am. I mean, I am, if you think I got a lot, nope. I'm right on, I'm still bobbing around on the surface in a little dinghy with a little fishing pole. That's how deep I've gone. Like, I'm down the rabbit hole, but I think my feet are still sticking out the top. There's people who have gone so far down, they haven't seen light for years. They know stuff that, and then there's people who are on the inside that do know. The hidden masters that do know the whole story. I've been telling you about them since I started doing this channel, just about. I've brought up the hidden masters. They exist. Some would call them ascended masters. I hesitate because not all of them are ascended in that way. Some of them are descended. Some are Saturnian, some are solar, if you will. Some are yin, some are yang. So I just call them the hidden masters because regardless of whether they're ascended or not, in their way, they are masters and they are hiding, because a master usually doesn't reveal themselves except to their students, except to the ones that must be. A true master just does, and the world moves with them. So the hidden masters, they know all this. They know the truth about Antarctica and ancient aliens and what space-time really is a projection of consciousness in some way. They know all of these things, and they are the ones that shape your system of reality, because they want the collective egos with them to help them shape a reality that they want, because that reality is malleable either in, I don't like to say that because since I come from such a lofty, non-dual perspective, I know that ultimately nothing is being done. It's all choices being made. You don't cause things, you choose them. When you understand that principle, you're basically God. The question is, what stops you from choosing these other things? Is it the ego choosing, or is it the divine choosing? If it's the ego, it's not going to do anything. The ego doesn't have a choice. The ego is a glove on a hand. The ego is a mask on a face. That's what the ego is. That's what the persona is. Why do you think they call it a persona? A person. Why do you think you're called a person? Do the etymology of the word person. It means mask. Once used by thespians or artists or drama, theater performers in Greece. You are not a person. This is the thing. If you do the real deep occult work, you find out that all of these things that you think mean one thing, their words have been corrupted to mean something else. You've been taught your whole life you're a person. You're not a person, my friend. You're that which wears the person. Why do you think I'm malleable? Why do you think I'm able to be a different person sometimes? It's not because I have multiple personalities, although I might. It's because I am aware of the fact that this person is ultimately something I can shape to some degree, if not total degree. And when I say I, there's like a higher ego and a higher ego, but eventually you get to the true self that ultimately shapes all of this. And that doesn't think in those terms. It just does it. The highest self doesn't think, I'm going to make Thorne this way next week. No, what it does is it does it. And it does it by making the ego say, it doesn't even make the ego say, it manifests the ego saying, I'm going to do this, and then it does it. It prepares itself to experience the ride. It does it sequentially because that's fun. It wants to watch the sequence of a young boy growing up in one life, becoming an occultist, then falling off that wagon, becoming a hardcore skeptic, then becoming a non-dual, wise Buddhist type of guy who says, I'm going to try magic again, and then holy shit. That's a cool story. It's got an early, like Star Wars, you got the hero's journey. You go up, you blow up the Death Star, then you end up on Hoth, and you try to learn, and you're fucking up, and you face Darth Vader, you get your ass kicked. But then enlightenment comes. You go off, and Luke Skywalker becomes a compassionate being going to save his father. Saturn again, by the way. The dark side. Goes off to save his father. The son, Jesus, the son, Luke, reunites with the father, Saturn, Kronos. Well, the grandfather, I guess, in this case, in the mythical sense. And they come together and they have integration. And now the integrated Luke goes on to start a new cycle, a new age, a new republic, and all of this, all of that, the extended universe. Sorry for using Star Wars, but I'm into it again. It's just one of my favorite plot devices. You can see this in your life. If you really look back on your life, you'll see you had a rise, a Death Star blowing up, a period of learning and failure, and the Empire kicks your ass, and you do it again, and then you have integration. And each cycle is comprised of multiple mini cycles. Every day is a cycle like that. It may not be according to the hour. See, that's another mistake. You think, well, it has to be according to an hour. But where do you think planetary hours come from? It's the understanding that even in the day, there are cycles to a day. There's sunrise, morning. It's all in fours. Have you ever noticed cycles are always in 4 parts? With multiple parts, but there's always 4 cardinal directions. And you shift them a little, and you got your waning and your waxing. You got your cardinal, your fixed. You got all these different examples. Mutable, immutable, whatever. But it's always based on 4s, because the cube, Saturn, 4s, 4, 4, 4. 4. The 4 cardinal material reality is based on 4s. 3 dimensions of space, 1 of time in a linear direction. 4. So your day has morning. How many parts to the day is there? You have morning, you have noon, you have sunset, evening, and then you have night. And that cycle repeats. You have winter, spring, summer, fall, and it repeats. Nature is a cycle of that kind, over and over and over again. Dan Best says, hello, I love you, brother. Take care of yourself and your family. I'm always there to support you. Thank you, Dan Best. I appreciate that. I'm not sure you could really help me right now, but, I do appreciate that. Your moral support, I do feel it. Thank you so much. Solora S says, hello, everyone. This is like an hour ago. Star Ruby Corsi says, hello, everyone. And says hi to Gogo. And Gogo says hi back. Roxy Love says, long time no see. I apologize, Roxy. This is going to be intermittent for at least the next few weeks, months. I'm hoping to get more back into regular stuff at some point. But I have a feeling that there's a very good chance that sometime in April, things are going to get a little crazier and people are going to be looking at other stuff. I will probably be focusing on world events starting this summer or maybe even spring, with obviously mystical perspectives too. But there may be days where it's like, holy shit, what just happened? And that's what's going to dominate what I talk about. Stara said, Gnosticism is actually deep and worth digging into. Completely agree. The only form of Christianity I actually give 2 cents of my time to? Absolutely. I actually was going to say on Facebook the other day that if Yeshua appeared before me, the Gnostic Yeshua, I would follow that character. I wouldn't be like, oh, Satan is good. I'm not going to reject that character. That character was a good character. If Gnostic Christianity turned out to be the literal truth and I'm wrong, you bet your ass I'd be walking around with a cross. The Gnostic cross, mind you. I would not have I might be like, so these guys are wrong. I mean, there might be a conversation to it. But once I realized, there wouldn't be a hesitation. Because the Gnostic form of Christianity is totally palatable to me. It's Luciferianism the right way. It's spiritual Luciferianism, because their version of Lucifer was Jesus. Let's see. Kelly Meadows says, hi, so good to see you again, DH. Good to see you, Kelly. I'm really sorry, guys, that I have been out of this, but it's going to be like this for a little bit longer. Jose Munoz says, what's up, DH? Good to see you. Good to see you too, Jose. Christian says, sorry, I'm late. Sorry, no problem, brother. I was early too, so. Alpha, what's up, Alpha? She says, hello, everyone. I'm late, but I made it. No, you're not late. I just streamed a little earlier. People are laughing at my Dances Wolves reference. Patchy said something about, let's see, the outer planets, from my understanding, are more or less generational influences. I hope a lot. So take the word influence out. Otherwise, that's fair. If you think that's what they do, that could be fair. I just would take the word influence out. The planets don't influence anything. The planets are a clock. You have to understand that the planets reflect a higher pattern, a deeper pattern to reality, a cyclic pattern. Patrick says, isn't the book of Revelation symbolic? Indeed it is. It's actually a ritual if you think about it. You can actually perform that ritual on yourself. I'm not saying I would suggest it. If you can figure out the symbolism and figure out how to emulate it, you can actually perform it as a ritual. Patrick says, what I know is what you think about, you bring about. There is no individual. There is just source observing itself from all different perspectives. Pretty well said. I like that. Christian says, if Luke is the new Saturn, don't take the analogy too far. He says, if Luke is the new Saturn, what does that make Grand Admiral Thorne? I'm not necessarily saying Luke is the new Saturn. Luke is the integration of the light and the dark. Have you ever noticed that Luke balances the Force? And how does he do that? Because he does away with the heavy-handed light side, and he doesn't necessarily reject the dark side. He doesn't even reject Jedi that use dark side powers. He would simply say, learn to use them for the balance, for good. Correct. 4 is also the number of physicality. Exactly right. Twisted Jack gave me the bunnies. What's up? I thought Jesus being Lucifer was common knowledge among occultists. I think it should be. You're right about that. But that depends on the individual. This is why I no longer objectively like to talk about things. See, I've evolved over the last 4 or 5 years. What people don't realize, people are like, Thorne, where'd all your demon and review videos go? Because I've evolved to the point where I recognize that those works were, at the time, I haven't gotten rid of them. I'm just going to archive them. They're going to come back out in an archive form. Like, I took them down for now because I'm tired of attracting theistic demonolators, to be fair. Nothing against those of you who do it. I'm just tired of attracting people who want me. You know how many people come into my streams and say, could you tell us more about this demon? And I go, I don't want to talk about that anymore. That's training wheels stuff. I don't want to talk about that now. I think I want to get deeper than that, because that's fair. You can still use them. I'm not saying don't. But I also want to impress upon you that everything that you know of comes to you through a corrupted system of lies. Every religion, its mythology is corrupted. Everywhere around the world. Probably, in my opinion, the one culture that has the least corruption would be the Vedic, especially the Advaitin path. That one, because it transcends the lore, and it talks about philosophy using the lore, Advaita is really, really pristine. It's probably one of the only traditions that I think on this planet is not totally corrupted by the influence of that Saturnian corruption, because it took the myths and intelligently kept the meaning of the myths. See, Advaita, I don't think is an interpretation of it. I think Advaita is the original meaning of it, kept alive and then applied to it in that way. Christian. I know you're trolling a little bit. Christian says, hard disagree. Did you not see when in episode 8 he seances the dark side and he senses the dark side in Kylo Ren and tries to murder him in his sleep? Exactly. That's not Star Wars, bro. That's who do you think made that Star Wars? The corruptors. They corrupt everything. They corrupt everything, even the good intentions that led to wokeism. You see, this is why I'm mad at the woke side of my friend circles, because they're so stupid. They went from the rational, hey, we shouldn't discriminate people just because of their race, creed, gender, blah, 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 blah. Treat everybody with dignity. The libertarian philosophy, non-aggression. Let them be. Unless they're harming others, leave them alone. What consenting adults do is fine. Instead of stopping there, now we have to normalize it. Now we have to attack people that are conservative. Now we have... These fools are destructors. They're corruptors. And they are corrupted agents. And at some point, their rude awakening is going to hit them hard. Any of them that still have any of their genuine soul left, or I should say soul, because everyone's got a soul, but everyone who still has any awareness is not totally ignorant and evil in that Platonic sense that I brought up earlier. Anyone who's not evil in the Platonic sense is going to feel absolute agony when they realize what they've been part of, if it's ever fully revealed in their lifetime. I already know people like that. I already know people who are going, I can't believe I fell for that. I almost led to the complete corruption of what is true and good in this world. I now realize that I can reach out and be as charitable as can be and compassionate as be without forcing everybody to be like me. I can be the change I want to see. Those people make the change. Those people wagging their finger, just like the Puritans of 30 years ago. They don't help. They don't help. They're making it worse. They're causing division. Division is a part of corruption. Without corruption, you don't have division. Without division, you don't have corruption. They go hand in hand. Corruption is a division of what was whole into broken parts. That's corruption. Time is a force that breaks things down. Division. The people, the cabal, use exclusively Saturnian energy on the world. For themselves, they take the sun. They take the fruit of that corruption and they warm their souls with it. Odo asks, are you a Star Wars or Trekkie guy, Thorne? Dude, I will beam down with a lightsaber. All right? I don't discriminate. If it's got stars, treks, or wars in it, there's a chance I want to watch it. If you saw my home screen on my computer, you'd see Star Wars video games, Star Trek video games. But let me be clear. I love the original Star Trek with Kirk and Spock. To me, that is timeless. It's beyond classic, and it is the beating heart and soul of Star Trek. It's also probably based on true events if you know shit that I know. Just saying. And I say based, I don't mean like, oh, it's like a recreation of things that happen. I mean, it is based on a reality. That reality is up there with humans in it. I promise you that. They might if my research is correct, they may have actually initially been speaking German, but we'll see about that. I don't know. Watch Robert Sepper videos. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying I think he's completely right. I'm just saying right now that's where my intuition is. My intuition's going, Robert's probably closer to right than we realized. Whatever you think of him, you can hate his guts for reasons that may be valid. I think what he presents is a piece of the truth that nobody looks at. That doesn't mean it's the whole truth. I think you have to take his work and combine it with the body of all this other stuff. But he is a piece of the work that everyone ignores because of its subject matter. They go, you must be anti-Semitic. No, sir. Nope. Nope. I'll fight you. No. No way. Not racist, not bigot, never will be. You could even objectively prove to me that there are groups of humans that are somehow inferior to others. Don't give a fuck. I ain't playing that game. We're all divine. We all ascend or nobody does. We're all admixed humans now. Even if some people have some genetic reason to be a certain way, we're not playing that game. I won't even hear it because we're not ready to hear that and deal with it correctly. You could be like, oh, this ethnic group has a lower IQ or a higher sperm count or bigger dick or a smaller dick. Doesn't matter. That's the spice of life. They're human beings and we have to treat each other with dignity. Like I said, we all ascend as a species or nobody does. That doesn't mean there won't be people left behind, but we can't discriminate to do it. We link arms and we go, you've got this strength, and together, all three of us, our powers combined, Captain Planet bullshit. That's what we got to do. Thorne, I thought you were left-hand path. Do I not sound left-hand right now? Isn't the world going the opposite direction or trying to? Let's everybody split apart. The racist, the left, the right. You want to show somebody an adversarial path. Sometimes the most adversarial thing you can do is tell people to hug it out. Let's come together, guys. I'm yelling again. But yes, Odo, I am a giant fan of all of these different things. And Dune, guys, I think Dune is partially inspired by Ancient Aliens stuff. Just a little bit. I don't mean it's a retelling of it. I mean, the same way that Pocahontas, Dances with Wolves, and Avatar are a retelling of the same story, Dune is a retelling of the Zechariah Sitchin, Ancient Aliens, all of that stuff. Think about it. There's even scenes that sound like Babylon with ships landing on ziggurats. There's references there. David Lynch's version in particular, although it is not true to Herbert's Dune, the inclusion of the weirding module that Muad'Dib, and you can shoot by yelling into it, and it's got a system, it uses sound. It's not sound in the air, it's sound in the ether that it's using. He never specifies that it's sound in the air. It's sound in the ether. The ether is being vibrated and fired at things. It might even be a scalar weapon. Lynch ain't a dummy. Lynch is a mystical guy. Go look him up. He's got a famous quotation that goes something like, I'm going to butcher it, if you've got a golf ball size consciousness, you'll have a golf ball understanding. But if you have a basketball size consciousness, you have a bigger understanding. He knows a lot. So he liked Dune for the same reason I like Dune. See, like the new Dune is soulless. It's beautiful. The new Dune is a beautiful movie. But compared to Lynch's Dune, it is a soulless automaton because all the spirituality, all the mythology, all of the deep esoteric stuff is almost completely removed from Villeneuve's version of Dune. I love Villeneuve's version of Dune. I do. It's a beautiful movie. But that's all it is. It's superficial popcorn bullshit. Real Dune, Lynch captured Dune's meaning way better than Villeneuve's version. And if you want to, just read the book instead. The book has both. The book has the beauty of Villeneuve, and it's also got the depth of Lynch's version. Like I have a friend, Siege. He's a mod on the Discord. He's a good friend of mine. He loves Dune. Yes. But he has no idea what the spice really is for. He has no idea that the spice is a metaphor. He has no idea. And it's not a metaphor just for oil. People say like, oh, spice is a metaphor for oil because it's all about the Middle East. That is surface level understanding. Go deeper. No, the spice is about something else. You could say the spice is adrenochrome. Yeah. You could also say that the spice is the fluid that travels up the spine, the 33 vertebrae, and hits the pineal, and bingo, you have an awakening. You could call it DMT, the spirit molecule. You could say spice is shrooms. The spice represents whatever modality of enlightenment is available. It's just stylized as a thing that you eat or sniff or whatever, drink, whatever they do with it, the different ways they ingest it. Dune is to, and I agree, I've seen a video about this, people saying, well, Dune is like our generation's Star Wars. It is, because they corrupted Star Wars, those fuckers. Lucas created what could have been a beautiful way to get people into mystic, because they don't want you to have the tools to your awakening. The original Star Wars movies, I'll even give you the prequels to a large degree. The original movies, including the prequels, you can get an enlightenment perspective out of that. People do. It's called Jediism. I'm not saying I endorse Jediism because it's shallow. In fact, the better schools of Jediism actually go to Taoism, Advaita. They take those and they connect them in, and they call it Jediism. Fine. I would do that. There's a part of me that would have done that, but I could see the writing on the wall. Star Wars is on its way out, at least for now. It may come back. I hope it comes back. Right now, the best Star Wars content there isn't the movies or anything that's mainstream. It's like Fallen Order. I love Fallen Order and Survivor. Oh my goodness, is that the most Star Wars shit I've seen in a long time. The Mandalorian, at least the first 2 seasons or so, up until Luke shows up. I think after that, I don't know. I stopped watching. Good shit. That's Star Wars, 100%. Rogue One was even more Star Wars. Soon as Kathleen Kennedy, the bitch, and the Three Amigos, or whatever, the people who made the other 3 movies, they ruined Star Wars. There's nothing Star Wars about episode 7, 8, or 9. Except it's just like Dune. They took the soul out of it, took all the superficial shit, corrupted the soul of it, and gave you the superficial as a poison pill. As a wolf in sheep's clothing. Just more superficiality with woke undertones. Because they're corrupting you. They're subverting you. I'm not sure, Odo, but I would agree. Because you have to understand that the ancient Vimanas, if I am right about my theory about how UFOs fly and all that, means you got to go back to some of that World War II people stuff that you still can't quite talk about without getting looked at funny. But we'll just say the Germans, because it's not just the Nazis. The things that the Germans were doing prior to World War II, contacting Agartha and all that, getting the technology. You have to understand the technology we have, 150 to, I mean, anywhere from we'll say 50 to 200 years ago, but let's be more clear, 100 to about 200 years ago. Some of the technology we have right now, the advanced shit that you have right now, they had in the 20s, and you don't even know it. Because to you, you only watch them dribble it out over the last 100, 150 years. So you think this is what we have. This is literally crumbs off of a banquet table filled to the brim. And they give you the crumbs and they want to engineer society through those crumbs because they're shaping you towards materialism so you become a drone. They don't even see you as human anymore. Learn to understand, even in the Kabbalah, there's the earthly man, and then there is the divine man. You're not even that to them. You're not even the earthly man. You are an animal to them because they have taken your knowledge away. They've taken your wisdom away. What does Homo sapiens mean, boys and girls? It means the wise ape. The wise ape. They're taking the sapiens away from Homo and making you just Homo. Well, don't take that out of context because people are going to freaking use that against me. But they're just making you the Homo. Wow, that's really... You can laugh. It's okay. I didn't mean it that way. That's some boomer level joke right there. That's a dad joke. But they are making you to the animal level. They're reducing. Look around you, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, and everything in between. Look around you at the world. Look at the people walking around you. Do they sound anything like me or even you? Do they sound human or do they sound like animals scared? They don't know their divinity. They know the machine that's been built around them and that's it. The freaking hardcore fundy this. They're not humans. They're animals. They're caged, fearful animals because they've had their humanity stripped from them. And this is also in Dune. I'm telling you, Dune is another deep esoteric work. As a metaphor, as an allegory. There is a scene in Dune where she tests Paul with the box to see if he is a human or an animal. In what way? Because a human chooses, an animal reacts. A human, when informed that you will die and suffer if you take your hand out of the box, will weigh the options and choose life in most cases. An animal will just go, that hurts, and die. It's a very heavy-handed test. But it is obviously a metaphor for the difference between rank and file people who have been dehumanized into animalistic homo, not homo sapien. They have been animalized. They are apes. That's why they tell you that that's what you are. They tell you that you were born of apes. That doesn't mean we don't have primate elements, that we're not of primate origin in some way. Or perhaps primates were just the closest analog for what we are in another star system. Because we ain't just from here, people, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages and persuasions. You're not an evolved ape, at least not in the sense that you evolved without help or intervention. We didn't fall out of trees and figure out fire and then, no. Yes, Odo, Planet of the Apes, exactly. That's probably exactly what happened. The people of Atlantis, Lemuria probably were spacefaring, living on other planets. They saw the Earth get wiped out and they're like, well, fuck, we can't go back for a while. Let's wait a bit. And then they come back. They see us all floundering around. And they're like, well, you know what? We got a better thing going here on Mars or wherever. Let's just give them some technology and let them reboot society. We'll leave some people in control. And then all hell broke loose. Things got fucked up and now we got what we got. That's a possibility. I do like the reverse Planet of the Apes analogy. That's actually something that Paul Wallace said in one of his books. I loved that. When I was like, oh shit, yeah, he nailed it. So, all right, guys, I'm going to take off. Let me just read these last supers and then I'm going to go. But this is the shape of things to come. The old Thorne's gone. Or I should say the old Thorne is part of the formula that new Thorne is. And at some point I might even change my name. Or I'll keep using the name, but I'll go by a different title. Call me the Traveler. But you're one too. I'm not special in that regard. So Alpha says, hello, DH, or hell yeah, DH, about Robert S. He is on point. All equally at the same time transcend the highest level of consciousness. Yes, exactly. Crow, what's up, brother? He says, just wanted to say this. Good to see you still active. Yeah, I don't know if you watch this from the beginning, you'll see that I explained that I'm going through it right now. So I'm kind of, I'm kind of unable to do my usual weekly thing right now. Once things stabilize, we'll see. Hopefully right now things are looking up at this, maybe not this moment, but today they were looking up If they continue to look up, I'll be able to go back to my schedule. We get a little bit of a reprieve, especially for that person who's suffering. And if they're watching, I love you. I hope you feel better. And I'll see you soon, probably Sunday. But hopefully that person gets made whole again and gets as much time as they need. When they're ready, they will go, not before. So when they're ready, we'll all let go with love. But until it's time, no way. We're just going to keep holding on. So Patchwork says, most of these NPCs walk around don't even act human. Just scroll through social media. Sometimes you'll see what I mean. Yeah, there are times I love to call them NPCs, and there's times where I like to go, they're just clouded. They've just had their higher self cut off from them. They don't realize it's still there. This is why I like After School. They do such a great job of portraying the two different kinds of people. You got the people who are just, oh, they look stupid, slack job, they look dumb. And then you got the happy ones who see the beauty in things. That's where I'm going. Hopefully I can drag you guys. We're not going to go there like all sappy. We're going to go there like fully realized beings, uplifting both the light and the dark together. By the way, that reference, there's a famous painting of Plato and Aristotle. So that is no different than this. Okay. Thank you, Alpha. I appreciate that. We need it right now. Somebody said like, haha, you're being cursed. Like, no, you couldn't have done this. You know how I know? Because these are things that are just part of what I predicted was coming. Curses don't work that way. When you come to understand what curses do, black magic is not about causing things to happen to other people. It's about robbing other people of their free will. That's black magic. So a curse, if it works, robs someone of free will. How does it do that? By deceiving them, leading them down the wrong path, and they destroy themselves. This is why shadow curses work well, because you're not causing things to happen to them. You're causing them to lose wisdom. You're causing them to succumb to their darkness, to their ignorance, to stumble and fall. You are deluding them. Black magic is not about hurting or helping. Black magic is about limiting free will to an illusory, confined space where they must obey. That is black magic. Anybody who tells you black magic, like I used to do, I was wrong. And anybody, even our best friends in the occult community, who say black magic is about changing the self. It's about, no, they're just selling you something. No offense to my friends and brothers who say this stuff. It's just sales gimmick stuff. They just want to use the black magic moniker. They know better. Some of them know very well what I'm saying. And I'm not going to call out names, but some of you might know of people who say these things. They either know or they don't know. The proper understanding of black magic is to deprive another divine being of its divine freedom. Period. Freedom is divinity. The opposite, black magic, is not freedom. White magic, by the way, white magic is helping others realize their divinity, to become free. And a truly realized being, it's not about black and white. You apply things in your own life that are a little bit like black magic because you're trying to get your ego to be in harmony. You have to take the ego and be like, get back on the track. So that could be a little bit like black magic, but it's not. It's just theurgy. All right, that's going to be it for me tonight, guys. I love you all. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here tonight. And thank you, Crow. He says, remember, my friend, wherever you may go, Stir Wanderer, there is always a flock watching over you. Thank you so much. In the shadows or the light. Crow, thank you, my brother. And give everybody that we know together a hug. I hope everything's well. You mentioned something recently that something went wrong with certain. I hope everybody's okay. And if not, I hope you are okay. I do hope everyone's okay regardless, but I hope you are okay. So, all right, guys, that's it for me. I will check you guys soon, hopefully within the next week. But if not, join my Discord. I am active as fuck on my Discord lately. Ask anybody. Ask Area Trance. Ask some of these people who's in the Discord. I'm posting almost every day something deep because I need an outlet because I'm just so distracted by everything. So a lot of my deep thoughts go there, believe it or not. Some of my best stuff goes there these days because fuck Facebook. You know, fuck all this other social media. I put some of my best work on Discord now. So if you want to follow that stuff until I get my blog going and stuff again, that's where you got to go. My Discord can be found in the description of this video. There is a link that says Linktree. Click on that. And one of the links in there will be linked to my Discord server. Sometimes we do movie nights. I want to get back to that. What I need is a community manager, actually. I would like to have somebody, I would really like someone who would like to help shape and organize and create activities for my server. If that is you, message me on Discord. I would love to give you that option because I think we need some more community activities there because it's kind of, we get a couple people talk a lot and not everybody does stuff. So if we can get somebody who's interested, it's a not paying gig, but you'll get recognition. You'll get mod status. So if you want in, I would really appreciate it and I'll make it up to you somehow. So let me know, DM me on Discord and we will see. But I need someone who knows how to do these things. Someone who can schedule stuff, who wants game night, movie night, hangout night, discussion night, all of that shit. I want to get, because I can't do it all. And for a little while there, I had Fleshy helping, but he's got his own life and he's not into it anymore. So he still lurks and he still shows up and does things, but he can't manage the community like he was doing. I could really use somebody to sort of step in, or more than one person, some people who are willing to help get the community thriving where I can't, because I can't focus on that many things. Too many irons in the fire puts the fire out, and I can't do that. So, all right. See you guys soon. And where's the button? I always do this. Peace. Oh, wait, 2 fingers. Peace.